Yes, everybody, welcome back to Talking Wolves. Welcome back to a brand new video. Rob Edwards has finally been announced in the last 24 hours or so, or just over 24 hours, as the new head coach of Wolverhampton Wanderers on a 3.5-year deal. This is a video that I've been looking to make, obviously, in the last day or so. Yesterday, in the end, was a little bit crazy for me, so didn't get anything out, but the boys did a decent length podcast if you want to catch that. Gully, Dan and Tom. But in this one, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about the appointment, the coaches, what sort of number of coaches we can expect, and of course, we will have the Middlesbrough perspective later on in the video as well. As always, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. The support on the channel has been fantastic over the last few weeks or so as we head towards 21,000 subscribers. But yes, Rob Edwards, as of Wednesday afternoon, was announced as the new head coach of Wolverhampton Wanderers. Of course, played for the club 110 times as a player, and then he started his coaching career and grew as a coach at the club as well. And really, he's had okay success wherever he's been, really. At Forest Green won the league, at Luton got them promoted, had a very successful start to life at Middlesbrough, albeit it's ended on an extremely sour note for him. Watford didn't go so well, but when does it ever go well for Watford and their managers? Now, in regards to staff that Rob may or may not be bringing in, Harry Watling will be joining him. That's confirmed as his assistant head coach. On some of the early videos, we've already seen of Rob going into the Compton training ground. Watling is there alongside him. Another coach that is potentially in talks to join and likely to join is Paul Trollope, currently a coach at Southampton. He coached with Rob at Luton Town as well. He's set to be joining Wolves alongside Watling as one of the coaches. Two people that probably won't be joining as coaches, and they're quite romantic or potentially quite romantic appointments. One of them being Connor Cody, the former Wolves captain, currently a Wrexham player. There has been talks with him to potentially join the club as a coach, but as it stands right now, that seems quite unlikely. And Joleon Lescott as well, the former Wolves player, has had coaching experience for the England setup. Also said to be a potential option, but as of right now as well, that one does also sound unlikely. I understand that maybe another 3 or 4 coaches, other than the names that I mentioned, will likely join Rob. Of course, unveiled yesterday at Wolves, and he'll take training. He starts take training for the first time on Monday. So we'll have a full 5 working training days with the squad. Hopefully a lot of them returning from international duty and so on. And hopefully get a positive result against Crystal Palace a week on Saturday. Now, in regards to compensation and so on, it was first rumoured on Sunday. I think it was David Ornstein that had put it out originally, that the overall compensation for Rob was going to be about £2 million. That's changed. We've seen £3 million. We've seen £4 million. So it's in and around that sort of region of £2 to £4 million overall. We're not sure if that's just for Rob or obviously for Harry Watling as well. And the delay, was from the Middlesbrough side, made it very awkward in regards to the contract talks and the finalising of the contracts and so on. Rob Edwards did have a release clause in his contract. It was there to be released and to be activated, and Wolves did that. So, of course, Middlesbrough are very upset with how it's gone. But Rob Edwards did put a statement out on his social media to addressing the Middlesbrough fans. He said that it was one of his toughest decisions. He wouldn't have considered leaving Middlesbrough. However, Wolves is a special club for him, and it was a dream to come back to Wolverhampton Wanderers. And he obviously goes on to thank Middlesbrough, saying they are an incredible club with a fantastic owner. Not too sure how those words will resonate right now with the Middlesbrough fans, but in my opinion, obviously, it's a nice touch. My overall opinion on the appointment, by the way, before we get to the Middlesbrough fan perspective, Wolves looked at various managers. Obviously, Gary O'Neill was someone that was spoken to, although I think that was heavily pushed by Gary O'Neill's side. Eric Ten Hag, also another manager that was spoken to as well. But Rob Edwards is the man that Wolves have gone with. And I think the communication skills, I think the motivational side of things is probably key for Wolves right now in the situation that we're in. Can Rob Edwards start to get the best out of these players? Can Rob Edwards get these players to believe once again which he has done in previous roles. And I would love to see Wolves stay in the Premier League, but if it was with Rob in the dugout, that would obviously be even better as well. And I think for now, all we can do is give him our full support. I'm quite excited and quite intrigued to see what he changes, if he changes certain things. And going into Palace, next Saturday, I'll be really, really interested to see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, I've defended his decision to leave Middlesbrough. I think a lot of us would be in the same boat. You take the football out of the equation. I understand from a Middlesbrough point of view, he's used words and phrases that have made out that they are a family, they are together and so on. But you take the football inside out of things, I believe, if you were offered a job at the moment in a better position, more money, closer to home, I think really it's a no-brainer. I think Rob's pretty much summed that up in the statement that I showed earlier on as well. But I spoke to the guys at Baropolis earlier on this week, a couple of days ago, to get their thoughts on Rob Edwards, the Middlesbrough perspective. What have they seen from him so far as well? So we'll jump into that one shortly. I will have the perspective of a Luton fan in a video to follow in the next day or so as well. But let's get the Borough perspective now on Rob Edwards and his departure from the club. So then, guys, I'm delighted to be alongside Chris from Baropolis to get the Middlesbrough perspective on the situation surrounding Rob Edwards. Chris, thank you for jumping on. I know it's a little bit of a strange topic and probably not one that Borough fans want to keep talking about, but let's address the elephant in the room. What is your overall opinion and overall take on this, especially now the dust has settled after a few days?
Yeah, well, firstly, thank you for having me on. I mean, I promise I'm not going to kick up too much of a fuss. I've seen plenty of chatter and arguments over social media, but I think understandably it's very much a lot of tribalism in football. Everyone thinks their club is the biggest and best thing since sliced bread. But in terms of the Rob Edwards situation, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into it. I think a lot of level-headed Middlesbrough fans rightfully can see the sort of personal side to this one, but can also see the professional side to it as well. And I think a lot of the anger, a lot of the grievance that Middlesbrough fans are feeling is just really down to Rob Edwards and a lot of false promises and empty words that he's made over the last couple of months. And that's all it's really been, really, a 3-year contract. But after 4 months, I think it is, here we go. And I'm chatting now to you about him joining Wolves.
Yeah, I suppose there is going to be an element of frustration. I mean, I said it earlier on. I went on Sky Sports News to talk about it, and I said I can understand the frustration of Borough fans because, especially when you're pushing for promotion, and it feels like maybe we finally got a little bit of stability and a proper promotion push. This happens. The reaction, as you've said there, I think you've summed it up very well, very level-headed. But I think you can look at it both ways, can't you? I think you can be frustrated, but you can also understand his side of things a little bit in the situation as well. We'll talk a little bit more about him and his early spell as Middlesbrough boss so far as well. Is there any early names out there that you're looking towards maybe being his replacement? I know you may correct me on his surname. Adi Vavish may be sticking around. I don't know if Rob's going to be bringing a couple of his coaches over. We're waiting for that to be confirmed. But any early names that are out there that you think would be ideal to replace Rob Edwards for you?
Yeah, there is a few. I think most importantly, the reports from our end are that AD's going to stay. I think when Rob was actually initially announced as Borough head coach, a lot of people were a little bit sceptical, I think it would be fair to say. And then the addition of AD, given his reputation at Coventry and things like that, kind of made everyone feel a little bit happier about the appointment. At the moment, there's a couple of names, but to be honest, I think given the fact that this is such a new situation at the football club, there's not really a shortlist that's been drawn up yet. There's names in the media, of course. You've got the Steven Gerrards, Carlos Corberan's been linked, but yeah, at the moment, there's nothing kind of from any respected sources enough for me to kind of give an opinion on. And yeah. From the reaction to Gerrard, it's the same as most people. So yeah, we'll wait and see for something more concrete, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if I take your mind back to the summer when Rob Edwards was first appointed, obviously he'd just come off the back of quite a poor season with Luton in the Championship. Obviously, he left them sort of halfway through the campaign and ended up getting relegated. What was your original sort of reaction to that, if you can cast your mind back? Was it one of excitement, maybe, or was it that you weren't too sure if he was going to be the right man for the job?
I think in terms of Rob Edwards and what he achieved at Luton, he ultimately got them promoted. I know a lot of people said, well, it was a Nathan Jones team, but he took them to Wembley and got them promoted, and they made a real fight of it in the Premier League. In fairness, they certainly didn't disgrace themselves. And then I think with the Tom Lockyer situation, with just getting relegated and getting into that losing habit, the wheels come off a little bit at Luton.
Yeah.
The season before he joined us, funnily enough, one of kind of the moments in which it all kind of come crashing down at Luton for Rob Edwards. Before he was sat, was a 5-1 defeat at the Riverside, and I think going back to the actual appointment and the reaction, there was, as I said, a lot of scepticism because we went from, as Middlesbrough fans, there's kind of an expectation that you should be in and around the playoffs at the very minimum. We failed to achieve that ultimately for a number of seasons under Michael Carrick. And there was somewhat of a fracture between the fan base in terms of Michael Carrick's not a... I don't want to disrespect him too much here, but he's very tight-lipped. He doesn't give much away.
Yeah.
He's not an emotional figure. The complete opposite to Rob Edwards. And I think that side was early on, again, probably a little bit sceptical from Middlesbrough fans as to whether is this genuine from Rob Edwards talking about family. And look, I'm not going to lie, people bought in, and the results definitely helped. But I think when he was first announced, as I say, a lot of people were very keen to see the team that he was going to bring in with him, because I think it was a new team to what he'd worked with previously. So the likes of Adi Vivesh and Harry Watling, who I understand is going to be joining Wolves with Rob Edwards. So yeah, people were happy with the sense of, well, he's got promoted, he knows how to get out of this league, but also we picked him up from a position where I don't think he would have been at the top of many managerial shortlists at the time of when we appointed him.
Yeah, I'm going to be intrigued to see what his coaching staff is, because obviously when we let Vitor Pereira go, we let all of his coaches go too. So there's no one at the club really at the moment on a first team level. So if he is going to be bringing a couple of Borough coaches with him, I know you mentioned Watling there. I saw a report the same over the weekend. But yeah, he'll have to build a new backroom team, regardless of whether he's bringing some Borough staff members or not. But maybe that will be revealed a little bit more by the time this video comes out. But that's the one thing I think with Rob Edwards. Obviously, we know as fans that we've got the sort of relationship with him. He's coached here, he's played here. The way he talks always intrigues me. And I think, again, going back to the summer, did you think those early interviews, those early post-match reactions and things like that, did the fans buy into that? Did they think, well, okay, we've got a guy that seems like he knows what he's talking about?
Yeah, I think it was like a real 50-50 split, and I think it's a large reason as to why there's been so much of a reaction and a backlash off the back of this situation, really, because Rob Edwards is kind of what Middlesbrough needed in the summer, in the sense of we need someone that's going to be open and honest about injuries. I know it seems such a daft thing to say, but Michael Carrick would never ever give anything away about how long a player would be out for. He was really transparent with that kind of thing. Really keen to, I mean, he went to local kind of social clubs and met with supporter groups. Really tried to build a connection between the club and himself and the management staff. And I think it took a little bit of time, and as I say, the results helped, but it definitely worked. The kind of constant mention of how proud he was, how proud his family was, even though that they've kind of obviously played a big part in him going back to Wolves, but he spoke about how much pride he had, the fact that he felt like it was a bit of a dream walking into his office every day at a big club, and yeah, I mean, I think there was, again, I feel like I've used the word an awful lot, but there was scepticism because for example, we took 7,000 to Rangers in pre-season, and Rob Edwards kind of
Oh.
stood in front of that away end and almost was tearing up, speaking about how emotional he was. And people did kind of think, is that really truly authentic? You know, is he doing? And it's not necessarily a bad thing because it did work to an extent. Is he just a very good talker and great at PR? And I think it's a mix of both. Obviously, with this situation, a lot of people would say, well, we were kind of blindsided and totally bought into something that was all a little bit false. But he's a great talker, and I think in terms of what Wolves, I mean, obviously, I'm sure you can tell me more, but from a situation of a club that just needs to kind of try and get behind someone and buy into a character, Rob Edwards, he's a great talker, even if it is all a bit of nonsense.
Yeah, no, I said that because I think this team is so low on confidence at the moment and just so flat and no belief. I always think someone like Rob Edwards would be very interesting because, like you said, I think he needs to get the fans on side for one, and I think if he could talk like that in pre-match presses, I mean, even me as you know, I like Rob Edwards even before he joined the club. But me as a neutral watching Luton, Watford, or Borough interviews and stuff, I'm intrigued. I love how he speaks and things like that. So I can imagine on the training pitch or in the dressing room, players probably are going to relate to that a little bit more. Obviously, now in hindsight, Borough fans can make their own mind up. Was it a show? Was it genuine? I guess we'll never know. But I think that is what Wolves need right now as a football club sat at the foot of the Premier League table. Tactically, then Chris, I mean, I've had a quick look. Obviously, you'll tell me better. It seemed like he had a little bit of flexibility in regards to playing sort of a back three, back five, or a back four. Can you give us a little bit more insight into the setup and how he played, and maybe the key players that he used and their sort of profiles?
Yeah, so in terms of the initial start and throughout pre-season, interestingly, all of the noises, and he's since admitted it, he come into Middlesbrough with an idea of playing a back four, which is somewhat of a surprise because typically, I mean, he did go from between a four and a five at Luton, but mainly they were a five, and I think
Mm-hmm.
everyone's expecting that. And then through our squad situation, a lot of our recruitment was quite late on. He opted to use a five. All of our early success this season was in a five. So it was a back five, back three with wing backs, two central midfielders, and then almost two sort of inside forwards or tens, withdrawn tens, and a number nine. That's
Mm-hmm.
where I felt that we looked the best this season. Towards the first international break of the season, sorry, the second international break of the season, the first time that we'd been beaten, he did move away from that a little bit and he tried to go with a back four. I think just purely down to chance creation and trying to score more goals because it become apparent that we looked a lot more resolute. We defended well. We were right at the top of all the metrics for kind of expected goals against and defending our own box. But in terms of attacking numbers, we were kind of polar opposite and near the bottom of kind of expected goals tables and chance creation. So I think a lot of the time Middlesbrough were coming out on the right side of the variance in games and not necessarily having many chances in games, but just defending really well. And that's a little bit of pragmatism goes a long way sometimes. So that I'm not kind of using that as a stick to beat him with. But it was usually a five. We saw different variations of that, whether it was three midfielders and two strikers. I think he used that formation a lot when he was at Luton with Carlton Morris and Adebayo, who were two big profiles up top. But yeah, I think his preference probably, from what I've seen, is going to be a variation of a back three, a back five, wing backs, two midfielders that are going to rat about and try and kind of win turnovers. And then in terms of the forward line, whether it's the two tens or whether it is two strikers, he does tend to try to put a lot of reliance on his fullbacks or his wing backs to just get crosses into the box and create chances that way.
I'm intrigued by that because, I mean, you'll probably know anyway. Under Nuno, we played a back five. Bruno Lage played a back five. Gary O'Neill, he had his best success at Wolves with a back five as well. Vitor Pereira couldn't quite decide in between it. But again, in my eyes, probably his best football was with a back five as well. So I think we have got the system and the squad for that. But it's what you say about the crosses. We just haven't really been putting the balls in the box. We've got Strand Larson and Rocadare, 6'4", 6'5" strikers, and we're not feeding them. Really struggling with the chance creation. But that was one of the stats that I kept seeing being pulled up by Championship fans, probably Middlesbrough fans as well, in terms of the chance creation. But I think it is important you look at the opposite side of things. Yes, you're not creating chances, but are you scoring the goals? And if you're not scoring the goals, obviously you're still in the games. You've got the chance to win the football matches. Obviously, as fans, we want to see goals. We want to see chances created as well. What's your thoughts on him as a coach overall, though, Chris? Do you think he's a poor coach? Do you think he's lucky? Because that's some of the comments that I've seen. I suppose now the dust has settled a little bit more. Do you think he can be a Premier League coach? Not necessarily now, but in the future. Did you see enough from him in that short spell at Borough that, as a young coach, he's still got a future at the top level?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't think he's a bad coach. I think with Rob Edwards, I know his title. I'm not sure kind of how Wolves operate in terms of their infrastructure, but he was very at Middlesbrough, not a manager. And
Yeah.
I think in terms of his coaching ability, from what I've heard, it seems like a lot of the work on the grass was very much Harry Watling. He had a massive impact on him, and also Adi. Now, that's not to say he kind of stood back and didn't do anything and just spoke on a Saturday before a game, but Rob Edwards feels, to me at least, and from press conferences, I know we touched on it, like more of a, not so much a coach, more of a man manager, more of a personality that players will believe in from man management and just the way he talks. Like I'll say again, he's a great talker, and it might not be authentic, but I'm sure at Wolves it will be. And I I think it's interesting because again, I know a lot of people, and from the Wolves side, it probably seems like Middlesbrough are saying, well, you're taking our manager, but he's rubbish anyway. And it
Yeah.
probably seems from a Wolves side that it's kind of, well, it's just sour grapes. In terms of Middlesbrough's run, up until Saturday, we'd had 2 wins from our previous 8 games. Plenty of draws in there. One of the 2 wins was against Sheffield Wednesday. I think it would be fair to say that we were beginning to be a little bit found out. Now, the defensive being resolute and, as I say, defending our own box, that still remained, but the chance creation started to become a real issue. And I don't think he's a bad coach. Do I think he can be a Premier League manager? Possibly, yes. I mean, he's done it before, and as I say, he didn't disgrace himself at Luton. But I just think, from a Middlesbrough perspective, some fans, it might just well be sour grapes. But from my perspective, I do think that Middlesbrough probably, the timing of Rob Edwards going, and ultimately he's put us in a great position in the Championship. I'm not taking that away from him. But I think Middlesbrough, probably the timing of him going is going to reflect well on Rob Edwards' time at Middlesbrough. Had this whole situation not occurred, I think from results and from performances, we nicked a late winner. His last game as Borough manager or head coach, we nicked a last minute equaliser at Leicester, and the performance was pretty rotten. We didn't create too many chances. But overall, I think you're getting a person that, for probably what Wolves need now, and from what you've said, maybe not tactically the most amazing coach, but certainly someone that supporters can buy into.
Do you think, obviously, you got a win on the final game before the international break? Do you think the whole Rob Edwards news helped on Saturday?
Yeah, it was. I must admit, it's probably in adversity, probably one of my favourite moments of the season. In all honesty, and it just created a total siege mentality. Now, I know you're getting the head coach, you're getting Rob Edwards, but it just felt a little bit like everyone thought we've been done over here, and it's Middlesbrough against the world. And to be honest, I think it played into the performance, and certainly the players bought into it. So, yeah, it was, even in a not great situation, having your head coach taken after 4 months into the season, it was... yeah, it certainly worked in our favour on Saturday against Birmingham.
Yeah, I saw a couple of well, I kept an eye on the score throughout Saturday afternoon, but the whole situation, I think, with some of the chants and things like that, I caught a glimpse of that, and I get it. I think if the same happened to me and a Wolves manager, I think that would sort of give you a reason, like you said, the siege mentality, and I think they would have all got behind the team, and I saw the reaction after the game as well. So huge win for you guys. What's the ambition, aspirations for the rest of the season? Is just stay up there and hopefully push for promotion.
Hopefully leapfrog Wolves.
I mean, there's a big chance of that happening, isn't there? I mean, if for whatever reason you guys don't come up and we do go down, I think next season that fixture will be one of the games that I think both sets of fans will probably look towards, won't they?
Yeah, I think I've already seen a little bit of chat about a potential FA Cup draw, which would be quite.
Yeah. Oh.
But yeah, I think ambition is still that we're in a third international or fourth international break of the season now. We're still in and amongst it. I don't think like previous seasons in the Championship, the newly relegated sides are as good as what they have been, and certainly aren't running away with it at the moment. Coventry look a really good side and are just scoring goals for fun. But in terms of that second spot, which we're currently occupying, just kind of try and cling on to that and see. I mean, I don't think, to be honest, any Middlesbrough fans expected automatic promotion at the beginning of the season at all. It was very much, if we can get in the playoffs, fantastic. And we're doing a pretty okay job at the moment.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Chris, thank you for jumping on. It's been really insightful, so I appreciate it. Where can people find you and your content if they wish?
So just Baropolis on all social medias. We've had our podcast that was out last night on Monday evening. So if any fans, I mean, there's a little bit more of a slating of Rob Edwards because, of course, you know, you've got to play up to the audience a little bit. But 24 hours have passed, so people have calmed down a little bit, including myself. So if anyone wants to go and watch that, by all means they can. And yeah, just Baropolis across all social medias, X, Instagram, all that.
No, thank you very much, mate. I'll make sure I leave a link to it in the description down below. And I appreciate your balanced and good insight throughout the video as well. But all the best for the rest of the season. Of course, whether it's in the FA Cup or whether we potentially meet you next season, I'm sure we'll chat again soon. But nice one for that, mate.
Cheers. Thanks for having me on, mate.
So big thank you to the guys over at Baropolis to help us out with the video today. As always, guys, let us know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section down below. Let's get your reaction to Rob Edwards' appointment. Do you think he will be a success at Wolverhampton Wanderers? As always, guys, be sure to hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you all very, very soon.